So in this next part of the video here, I'm going to be cleaning up the cylinder head. I got it back from the machine shop. It looks pretty good. There's still those areas that were corroded, but they're not really on the sealing surface. They're sort of in the open area on the block where the coolant sits, so or where the coolant flows. So I'll show you guys the cylinder head. It looks a lot better than it did. You can see those areas that are corroded like that. But I don't think that it's going to be a problem just because it's not on the sealing surface. So even areas like this that are like almost missing, we shouldn't have too many issues from that, hopefully. But this will, I guess, be a test if you should run your cylinder head, even if it's severely pitted. But yeah, the guy at the machine shop seemed to think it would be okay, so I think we'll be just fine. But right now what I'm going to do is I have this Dremel with the mini Dremel attachment, and I have a wire wheel in here. So I'm going to take this wire wheel and just go around in the inside of the combustion area here and just clean off all the carbon like I did on the valves. I'm going to focus on the valve seats, but not scrape them up too bad, and also go down inside where the valves ride and where the air, on this side is the exhaust, so the exhaust is flowing out, but on this side it's the intake, so it's much cleaner because the fuel gets sprayed in there. But yeah, I'll show you guys what I'm talking about here if I can get the light more aimed down. That side is the intake. It's relatively clean, and this side right here is the exhaust side. It's hard to see in there because it's so carboned up, but it's nasty in there. So I'm going to start in there, and we'll see how far this one wire wheel takes me. But yeah, I'm going to get to it. Okay, so the mini Dremel didn't quite work out, so I got the regular Dremel here, and I'm going to get started. So you can see I've got one that's just about done, and yeah, that's it. I've been at this for a little while. You can see down in the exhaust, it looks much better than it did. See, it's kind of not looking too bad in that one, and in that one it looks pretty nasty. Yeah, you can see it good from over here. But the intakes aren't too dirty, but I'm doing them anyway. And then I decided to do the whole combustion area too. I put a mask on because there's carbon going everywhere, but yeah, it's looking pretty good. I'm just going to go through and do all of them, being really careful not to touch any of this area on the Dremel to any of the sealing area for the head gasket. Kind of nicked it once here, but I'll take that down with a little sandpaper or something so it's not sticking up. But yeah, other than that, we're looking good. We're going to keep going on with this. So I got all of the areas where the valves seal, and also these areas as well where the air flows and the exhaust flows. Air and fuel on the intake side, and just exhaust on the other side. Got those cleaned off, looking pretty good. I hit them with some brake clean, and then I went up here and I scraped off the whole old intake gasket, and I cleaned it up with a razor blade, and I tried to scuff it as best I could with a green scouring pad. It looks pretty good. There's a little corrosion right here where the exhaust feeds in from the other side to go to the what do you call it? EGR, to go to the EGR. And I also came around on this side and I cleaned up the spark plug tubes where the seals sit up top. All those little seals down there, these little guys right here, like this one and that one, I'm going to change those. Those are the valve stem seals, so I got to get some of those. And I'll change those, and those prevent oil from dripping down into the cylinder. So yeah, I'm gonna get some of those on order. This is turning into be a big project, but you know, if I'm gonna do it, I might as well do it right. Then I won't have to worry about it again. So we're looking pretty good here. Yeah, but that's gonna be it for tonight, I think. What's going on? It's another night, and I just got finished wire brushing, pressure washing, drying, priming this cylinder head. There's a lot of taping involved. I don't want to get any of the surfaces messed up, but the primer came out pretty good. I'm just waiting for this to dry up a little bit, and then I'm going to go ahead and hit it with the color. It should match the intake and the transmission and everything. Not much to paint, but you know, you won't even see the back of it, but you're definitely going to see the front. This side's under the timing cover right here, but the other side is visible with all the sensors on it and everything. So should look pretty good. I'm excited. Didn't take that much effort, and it should have a nice result. So I'll show you guys what it looks like after I get it all painted with the aluminum color. I did get a new microphone, so we'll see how this sounds, but it's like a nice shotgun mic on top of the camera, so hopefully it's pretty nice. So I finished painting the head. I got it over here in the garage. Came out really good. I'm excited. It's going to look really good after it's all in place. I still want to paint that water pipe and brackets for the alternator and stuff while I'm got everything out. But for now, I started to take off a couple of the seals in here. You can see that's where those two spots there where the seal goes. These guys right here. That one is one of the seals that's still in place. So there's the exhaust seals that are on this side, and then this side, these are the intake seals. So I ordered those and they're on their way. I just took these off by prying at them with a screwdriver from the bottom, being careful not to scratch anything. A lot of people take them off with pliers, but I was having a tough time doing that. So prying them up just worked good for me. But yeah, I'm probably going to put the new ones on with an 11mm socket and just push them to snap it on. If I can't get it on, I'll tap it with a hammer, but we'll see if I can get it on. But that's the next step there, and then I'll lap the valves in, make sure they seat really good, and then I can put the springs and retainers and everything back in, and then put the rocker assembly back together, and yeah, this head will be basically assembled. Then I just have some work to do to the engine bay still with the coolant hoses and stuff, but yeah, we're beginning the reassembly process shortly. I'm going away for the weekend, so this will probably be it for this weekend, but next week I'm going to get back to work, and I hope to have it running by next weekend. But that's going to be it for tonight. What is up, guys? So I've been working on this thing a little bit. I was gone for the weekend, but now I'm back, and I was able to get the coolant hoses routed, or at least some of them. You can see that one comes out of the heater core and goes down to that little valve there that lets the coolant into the inside of the car, and that hose kind of goes up to here where we're going to the side of the head. And then I got the lower hose run from down there all the way up this way, and I set that one in place, but I did take the back water pipe out because there was the thermostat housing over there, and it was super corroded, and the O-ring was definitely leaking. So I took that off, and I assumed that the O-rings in the water pipe would be the same, and I was correct. I think I have it over here. Yeah, that's the O-ring right there. It's pretty messed up. You can see it's like all choppy looking, so that thing was worn out. So I'm going to get all new O-rings for the water pipe, which is right here. There's just like one 12mm that holds it on, and then you kind of just got to twist it and yank it out. It's pretty difficult because it was so corroded in there, but I ended up getting it out. So I spent the other part of my night cleaning up and painting the water connections. This is the one that goes on the head that connects the upper radiator hose to the head, and this is that thermostat housing. They were pretty grimy and corroded, so I wire brushed them and threw a nice coat of paint on it, just because it's going to be next to the head, and everything's going to look crappy next to the head from this point. So I might paint the distributor and the other brackets in the front of the engine and stuff. Wish I could paint the block, but I just don't think that there's a good way for me to paint it without I don't know, getting overspray all over everything here, which I don't want to do. So it is what it is. I'm doing what I can. Eventually the engine will be out of this thing and I will paint it then. So in other news, I had someone actually offer to grind my valves, so that take the valves and throw them on a grinder and make sure that the edges are really nice and flat. We did have some pitting that I noticed. After that last clip that you probably saw of me cleaning the inside of the head and everything, you could see that there was pitting on those exhaust valves mainly, but some on the intake valves as well, and the seats. So pitting on the seats and the valves, to me, seems like it's not going to seal very good. Probably wouldn't be a big deal, but you know, we know once we went to lap them in, but I didn't even bother trying to lap them in just because, you know, I don't think they're going to work very well. So he offered to grind the valves for me for free, and I said, you know what, why don't you take the head and the valves, do both, and, you know, let me know what I owe you. I mean, it's worth the money at this point, just because, you know, I'm already in here, so I might as well make it 100%. So it'll be good. Everything should seal really good. I'll show the lapping process once I get everything back. But yeah, that's all I was able to get done tonight. Definitely going to do more work on it once I get the head back. So yeah, stay tuned. What I have here is my intake, which what I plan to do is try to make this a bit more flat than it is. There are definitely some areas of this that are, you know, this is kind of corroded here, and I'm not sure if this is actually too flat. When I clamp it down, it should pull it tight against the gasket, but I'd prefer a completely flat surface. So what I decided to do here is set up a piece of sandpaper that I got from work. It's 150 grit sandpaper, so it's pretty coarse, but it seems like it's doing a pretty good job so far. So I'm going to carry on with this and yeah, try to make this flat here. I got this idea from somebody that actually used a piece of glass and they went up through grits on an actual cylinder head. I wouldn't do it on a cylinder head just because, you know, you're working with a head gasket. This is just an intake, so I think this should be just fine. It might even seal now, but I think this can only help because I do think that it's flat where I'm working here, so if it's flat, then it should make the intake flat and we should be all set. So I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of work on this. So I've been at this for quite a while. Definitely took longer than I expected. This sort of thing, I guess, depends on how you value your time. Could definitely pay somebody to do it and spend a lot less time. But yeah, I think it came out pretty good. There's still a couple of areas that are a little bit pitted, but I can't even feel it with my fingernail, so I don't think there's a point in going down any further. It looks much better than it did. I think it's going to seal really well. I had to clear the paper of all the aluminum dust in here and stuff, so I just was fanning at it with a rag. But yeah, definitely a lot of work, but I think it'll be worth it. Shouldn't have any intake leaks. I also hit the top of this with a little bit of 600 grit on this wooden block. I have the new gasket for that too, so I'm going to hit the other side of the intake, and then maybe I'll go ahead and assemble the intake because it's pretty much ready to go back together. I just got to figure out what to do about this little EGR area here. There's a little steel gasket that goes there, so I'm going to find that gasket, maybe clean that up a little bit, and hopefully I can get that to seal really good by reusing the gasket. Usually can with the steel gasket. Just gotta make sure there's no paint on it, and we should be okay. But yeah, that's gonna be it for this intake. I'm gonna go ahead and put it back together. So this is probably the last thing that I'm gonna have for this video, but I did get the intake mostly back together. Nothing's tight yet, just all loosely put together. The surface did come out pretty good. It looks pretty flat. Nice and machined look. But yeah, so I got the EGR set up, put back on there, that plate, and I put the top intake portion on and all the bolts in it. And yeah, I put the gasket that I got. There's a new gasket in between there, but I cleaned up those surfaces as well. I didn't sand them like I did with this, but I hit them with a little bit of scouring pad and 600 grit. I'm just bored waiting for the cylinder head, so I decided to paint the EGR as well. I hit it with a high heat black since it does get kind of warm. But yeah, looks pretty good. Once it goes back on, it'll look great. I'm just waiting on these O-rings, the two for the water pipe, and one for that front upper radiator hose that goes to the head, and then this one is the coolant outlet, that comes out of that water pipe there, and then goes to the thermostat, which is in there and stuff. So those O-rings are all right here. These are the two for the water pipe. This is the one for that rear outlet out of the water pump there, and then this is the front water pipe that goes to the upper hose. So I'm going to get those three gaskets from Honda either tomorrow or Thursday, and yeah, then I should be able to start putting that back together, and then I just have intake work left to do, which, come to find out, the actual valve guides are apparently worn out. The guy that was going to work on the head notified me that he doesn't really want to do the grinding on the valve seats on the head, just because the valve guides are worn out, so he's not really too confident that it'll come out good. So the valve guides being worn out means the valves could have a little bit of play in the actual guide itself. So, I mean, the correct way to do it would be to either get new valve guides if that's possible, or get a different cylinder head. But at this point in time, I've kind of got a little bit of time and money into this head. I'm just going to put it on, and we're going to see how well it works. If I get really bad valve lapping when I go to put it together, then I might have to look at junkyard cylinder heads or a new cylinder head. I found them on eBay already ported and polished with new valves and everything for like $250. So if I got one of those, I guess that could work. But I really don't want to go that route, so most likely just going to put this thing back together and see how it runs. I'm sure it's going to run better than it did. It was full of carbon and everything. So yeah, with that being said, I think that's going to be the end of this video. So appreciate you guys watching. Stay tuned. I know I'm dragging this project out, but things are coming out nice, and it's going to look really good. I'm also fixing the oil leak. I put some oil dye in it, and I found that the front balance shaft seal is leaking. I took the timing cover off, so I might show that in the next video. But I'm going to change that front balance shaft seal, and I have to change the cam seal as well. So I got to get some parts ordered here if I want to get this thing done anytime soon. But yeah, so once again, thanks for watching, and stay tuned. This thing should be done in a week or two, hopefully.